Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is life coach and LOA teacher Joel Elston.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Joel, we were just joking before we got started about how we've done this topic, how many hundreds of times. And in a sense, it never gets old because Jen picked the topic for us today, and she hasn't heard us do it before. And even as the music was playing right there, it occurred to me that happens a lot here on the show. There are a number of themes that I've certainly talked about. I know same is true for you. A number of themes you've talked about over the years, and we've talked about over and over again. And inevitably, somebody new is hearing it for the first time.
Absolutely.
And it's easy to forget that, but it's an important piece, and it ties in beautifully with the topic of gratitude, because I am grateful for the fact that we're able to reach more and more people with the message in ways that we didn't reach the last time, but we reached them this time, and we're going to reach somebody new next time. I like that.
And not only do I love that, it's just when we were kidding, of course, but at the end of the day, gratitude is fundamental. It is the basis of all of this. Gratitude is foundational, and it's I've never seen anyone be successful using the law of attraction in their favor without gratitude. It's sort of a conduit to lift your mood. It's hard to be super depressed and sincerely grateful at the same time. That it changes the vibration. If you really get grateful for the people in your life and the situations, it on a vibrational level, it changes you. You start gratitude. Gratitude is a very powerful. I don't know. I was on listening to this debate between these two people about whether gratitude or anger was the more powerful emotion or whatever,
No.
and which pretty weird conversation to watch, but nonetheless, it was the idea that I think most of us have a negative way of thinking that is pervasive, but when you start to, and that's what I start doing with people, like you must start working on becoming grateful. It's not a magical, it sounds cliche. Gratitude doesn't change things right now, today. It can incrementally start the process. But when you program your brain to be grateful for everything, did you wake up today? Because really nothing else matters than that. So if you're just grateful that you woke up, you're starting on a different position, a different level, a vibrational level than, here we go again. You have the privilege of waking up today.
Yes.
And that's not afforded to everybody. That's, when you look at it, it's a rare gift,
It's more and more rare every day. Yeah.
Exactly.
The odd thing is that you're right. We do kind of take that for granted, and we take it for granted a lot. And I would say that it's even gotten to the point where we take it for granted daily. Many of us.
Yeah.
You can see it. I mean, the evidence is out there. Anything you want to complain about, you can tell that the thing you're complaining about, plus yourself, there's something going on there that is focused on ingratitude. It's every time.
Yes. Yes.
So if there's a really good barometer, if you will. If you want to understand why something is happening, look for the lack of gratitude. You'll see it. It's very clear.
Yeah. If you're diagnosing any situation, if you're sort of trying, where is gratitude lacking? If your life is, it's what are you not grateful? What is going on? And it is a good diagnostic tool to see where gratitude's lacking, or where your mind goes and the most negative thoughts. Like this random person today, I'm in Central Virginia, and on Wednesday we've had a very bad winter for us, and we're about to get worse on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So I made the mistake of going to the grocery store this morning, and
I love the way you said that. I made the mistake of going to the
terrible mistake. So first of all, if you start with the premise that at 11 a.m., and this is Publix. I love Publix, but it's a grocery store chain, generally in the South, and it's a very nice store. But it attracts a bunch of old people who tend to be extremely grumpy.
Okay.
If grumpy scale is 0 to 100, the average person at Publix at 11 a.m. is on a 50. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then when a storm arrives and they're desperate to get their 19 loaves of bread and apparently a lot of toilet paper and water, then they move up to about a 78.5 in grumpiness.
Wow. Okay.
So you can't even walk through the store without people being angry.
Wow.
And I find it fascinating because they're just they move their cart, they're rushing around like, oh my God, if I don't get enough bread, I don't know what's going to happen because these 2 days of this stove, I might actually lose 4 pounds. Consider, wow, that'd be terrible. And not to be judging, but a lot of people would do well without the bread anyway. But that's a whole separate
Probably,
topic.
yeah.
Yeah, but just didn't want to go there. But the whole thing is when you're in that energy, and it's such a tangible, grumpy, fear-based energy that, like, I just got out of the store. I'm like, I said, I don't need anything that bad. I'll come back later.
You said something earlier too, and I don't remember what the exact word was. So this is like kind of around it a little bit. But you talked about how it's really not possible to be in a negative mindset and be grateful at the same time.
Right.
And when you said that, you know what the first thought that came to my mind was?
What?
Boy, I've sure tried.
Oh yeah, I think we all do. But if you're sincerely grateful, one of the most powerful things I'll have people do that are in a real, if you like, had a client the other day I did this with. So very negative mindset, lost everything, wife's divorcing him, all these, all the stereotypical 40-year-old world's falling apart stuff. And he said, what's the point? What's going on? So we were just talking about different people in his life. He said, and on top of that, his mentor and youth football coach had some rare form of cancer and is dying. And he said, that's just the icing on the cake. My mentor, somebody that the biggest influence, his father was not around when he was younger, and this guy played the role of surrogate father. So I said, well, he said that he means so much to me. I said, does he know that? And he goes, well, I'm sure he does. And I said, no, does he know it? And he says, well, no, maybe I should call him. I said, no, what I want you to do is I want you to go home and preferably handwrite, if you can read your handwriting, if not type it, and let him know that, just how grateful. And he said, I'll do that. He said, and then I said, I want you to take it and put it in a frame and take the time and take it to him and hand deliver it.
Nice.
And he said, well, he said, I don't mind doing that, but why? And I said, because when you express gratitude that deeply and that succinctly, I said, so after you deliver it, text me and tell me how you felt.
Wow.
And so he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He texted me and said, we both cried happy tears for about 15 or 20 minutes. He said, this is the greatest gift I've ever received. And he said, you're one of the greatest gifts I've ever received. And I said, so how you feel? And he goes, things are great. Things are fantastic. He said, it just adjusted everything. He said, my wife and I have been fighting for years. We needed to get divorced. I'm on a whiny spell. I need to get my ass in gear. I'll make a lot of money. We'll be fine. I'll be fine. And so by taking something like gratitude and then it sort of putting it on steroids by writing what you're grateful for and then delivering to a person you care about, that changes everything. That one act of being grateful. Now that doesn't fix the rest of this guy's life, but it shows the power of that gratitude even within that day, how it shifted his perspective greatly.
Oh yeah. And what a wonderful, heartwarming story. The thing I love about heartwarming stories is we may not see results right away about anything amazing coming out of it. But I'm going to kind of disagree with what you said. I think this is going to lead to something fantastic. It just might not happen immediately.
No,
but when you have that big of a shift in your vibration, because that's what that is. That's a vibration shift going on there. When you have that big of a shift going on, something big is going to come out, and it's probably not just one. It's probably a series of big things that come out.
Well, and what I meant to say, it's not going to change it today, but it will change it. Since the vibration change, it has no choice but something change. But if you want to multiply that, do something every day on top of that other shift, and now you're going to get a vortex, sort of a vortex of growth. It's like, again, throwing gas on a fire at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're right. That's going to accelerate it tremendously. But even if you didn't do that, even if you just did that one thing, one thing is still going to produce a result. That's what's so cool about that kind of thing. Because you're right. The way he did that was fabulous.
Yeah. And it'll stuff like that will shake you up. And going through and a lot of times, especially when egos are involved, or we have, I asked myself the other day, are there people that don't know how I feel about them? Do I
Mm,
need to, like tell them how grateful I am? And I tell everybody I'm grateful. You and I always tell you I'm grateful for our friendship, and
me
we,
too.
yeah, we've always shared that. But there's a few people in my orbit just because maybe it never felt normal or right or whatever. And I said, I need
Mm,
to make sure I reach out, let them know how grateful I am. And I've been doing that on some people that I've probably never said that to. And it
no,
has a really big impact on them. And it has a big impact on me
sure. Oh
because I
yeah.
just like to constantly keep myself in that. It's like, I just view this as there's stages of life, and I'm just so grateful to be where I'm at, how I feel, how my health is. There's really nothing in my life right now that I could even come up with negative at all. I mean, it's there's really nothing that's even dipping in toward the negative side, and it other than some battles with Xfinity, um, which I find humorous at this point. We
Especially since you divorced them today. I saw the note. Yeah.
Yeah, I did, but they're not going easily. Just let you know. Uh, they claim I have a cable box that I do not have.
Ah, okay, that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
so I told them to produce the documentation that I signed to have it,
Mm,
which I know they don't have, since I
right.
never signed anything like that because I've never had that cable box. But anyway, nonetheless, that'll work out as well. But the energy that we vibrate on, the level that we vibrate on, is on a daily basis, if we can make incremental changes of less negativity, more positive thought, more gratitude thought. And gratitude isn't the only emotion that we need or can use for this. Gratitude is just the simplest to get to. It's a universal language. It's
Mm,
uh gratitude has sort of to me, it's the a lot of people say, well, love works the same way. I said, yeah, it probably does.
it
And
does. Sure.
it does. But gratitude is to me more universal. It's easier to tap into.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be more in reach. I mean,
Yes.
vibration it's considered to be slightly, love is a little bit higher, which means it's going to be closer to where more people are.
Right.
So it's going
Right.
to be easier to reach, and it's going to be easier to reach out to, and to believe you can get there.
I agree.
I think that's kind of like the comment I made a moment ago. We will sometimes try to feel grateful even when we're in a lousy place because we feel like that one's in reach. We might
Yes.
even be wrong about that, but we at least seems like there's a chance we could get there, and so that's why
Yes.
we're willing to try that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, one thing I really love in what you were just saying is you have, you in particular, have here on the show a number of times you've talked about how, like for instance, when we did the show before the election, you said, well, no matter what happens 4 years from now, I'm going to be better off. It doesn't matter who wins the election.
Right.
And you, not just in that context, but in a lot of contexts, you've talked about over and over again. You've talked about how great your life is. You mentioned it again here, how so many things going right. You love your life. Everything is just wonderful about it. And what I love today is that you kind of gave us a background look on how you got there because it was the gratitude that got you there.
Yes.
It was the expression of it. It was the feeling of it. It was the living of that gratitude that got you in the place where things started to work out well.
Yes.
That's an important connection to make. We kind of skip that one in our mind sometimes,
We do. And
you know?
one of the things that my first introduction to the law of attraction at any depth was the book The Secret.
Right.
And while it's certainly a remedial look at the law of attraction, and it's you don't get much out of for a deep dive, I think it's a wonderful introduction to the concept.
Yes.
And they use gratitude a lot in that
Yes.
book. And so that was the blueprint that I started. And when things were, way back in the day when I started read The Secret, and things were just starting to go well for me, but it's like, okay, I wasn't doing the destructive behavior, but my life was not moving forward very fast. So I had to remind myself, or be grateful. And some days it was just, I'm not homeless today, have a
Mm,
place to live, I have food to eat, I have a job to go to. And those were things that helped me build and build and build.
that's
Gratitude
huge.
was a Gratitude is what I built my law of attraction, sort of the mastery of it.
Mm,
And I then later understood it, gratitude was just sort of the introductory drug, so to speak. It was the one that it lit everything up, but you don't necessarily, as time goes on. Yes, I'm grateful every day for everything, and I write a gratitude list for. I'm on 30 straight years of every day writing 5 things I'm grateful for, without exception, every single day. Uh,
Wow.
when I was in jail, I wrote 5 things I'm grateful for on toilet paper. I literally did.
Wow.
So haven't missed a day. The day my son died, I wrote 5 things I'm grateful for. The day my mom died, I
Mm.
wrote 5 things I'm grateful for. So I believe in that concept, and I will do that until the day I die.
Yeah.
And gratitude is fundamental, but also you start to realize it is just sort of an entryway. It takes you there. But like saying love, just looking at beautiful things, the taking advantage of, the like after the bad, we had bad. I don't want to say bad. We had a lot of rain over the last few days,
Hmm.
and today was very sunny, even though it was a little chilly. The air was so perfectly clean, and the sun was so bright,
Hmm.
and I'm just sitting out there looking over. I got this new place I moved into, and I'm looking over this pond, and I'm thinking, yeah, things are good. Things are really
Yeah.
good. It's a pretty day, and just being able to tap into that, and I'm not trying to make. There's people I'm sure that they think about it, they go, okay, the dude's grateful or whatever, but it's not just stating it, it's feeling it.
Feeling it.
Any of this stuff is feeling it. Like looking for, like, who are you really grateful to have around? Who are you
Yeah.
grateful that the people that have stepped up in my life over the years, the people that that I've connected with. It's the situations. I've worked with multiple thousands of clients in the last 30 years, and 95% of them. I mean, I'm still consider them, but a lot of them have just turned into friends. We don't work
Mm.
together anymore. They're just friends now.
Which is fun.
I meet with some young people that I've seen them go from meeting with me to getting married to getting divorced, and it's like I've been through the cycle with these guys, or
Yeah.
ladies,
Right.
and it's pretty impressive.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And
I'm
you're right that
grateful for all that.
that gratitude is kind of like the starting point. In fact,
Yes,
it kind of made me think about Abraham Hicks. They put together, I think it was like a 23-point scale, their range of different values from extremely depressed to extremely joyful,
yes,
all the different emotions that they've associated with that. And at the very top of their list, there are 6 of them, 6 words that they associate as being the highest vibration, all kind of equally. Love is one of them. You mentioned that one. But it occurred to me as I thought about what those 6 are and thought about them in the context of gratitude. Gratitude is, you said it was like a gateway drug. Gratitude is the gateway to all of these. So one of
absolutely,
them is love. Gratitude is definitely a gateway to love. Another one
right.
is appreciation. I mean, appreciation and gratitude are so closely intertwined anyway.
Yes,
But gratitude is definitely a major step toward total appreciation of not just things that you like, but of everything, which is
yes,
that's the real challenge if you can appreciate everything. Empowerment, that's one that kind of gets lost at times, but empowerment is a high vibrational space. You want to get to empowerment, feel gratitude.
yeah.
If you don't try to feel gratitude first, you probably won't get to empowerment.
And one on a side note, well, there's, as you know, I am a huge fan of all the Abraham Hicks material. I listen to their books constantly over and over and over again. I'm just, I'm a believer in 95% of everything they say. However, making a 23 scale emotional guidance
It is a
scale,
little over the top, I think.
I'm like, okay, can we make 20? Can we make it 15 or 10? But 23 points, and I'm like, okay, that's not it. Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason. I never asked her, never met her to talk to her about it, but that's such a random, overly complicated scale.
I have to agree. For myself, I had to shrink it down to a scale of 2 because I couldn't handle 22 or 23 or whatever it was.
I have about 5. You can, and to be fair, they're saying these are suggested.
Oh
You do
yeah.
what you want to with it, but I just find it fascinating. Like that's saying, like, okay, we have 23. That's such a random number to start with, and it's like and one of them is almost like we have anger, just a little less anger, just or whatever they, they So but moving up the emotional guidance scale is definitely real. I'm not making
Oh
fun
yeah,
of that. I'm
yeah.
just making fun of it's like
How many
super
increments they cover?
overcomplicated.
Right. Yeah. They
Like
did. They
w-
overcomplicated.
yeah,
But
one of my
I think they did it deliberately. I really do.
yeah, one of my clients was trying to memorize that. I'm like, no, don't, no,
Don't memorize, please no.
no. I said, let's create your own. Give me 10. Let's use
Right.
10.
Yeah. It doesn't even matter what the number is. Give me whatever works for you. Like I
Whatever
said,
works. Yeah,
mine's literally
but
two. Mine's better and worse. That's my scale. Is
yeah,
it
I mean,
better
well,
or is it worse?
but you also, as you get more, this is a great point, Walt. As you get more in the understanding of the law, I have two
Hmm.
because I needed more earlier to help
Yes.
incrementally go up, but
Yeah.
because you can't make those gigantic leaps
No.
early.
No.
So the more you need, I do say the earlier, the more you need, just because you need
Mhm.
incrementally to go up. When you really get seasoned at it, you really you know how I believe in law of attraction. It's just not negotiable. So I just need to say, okay, vibration's low, boom, there. It's fixed. We're good.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but
I agree
that
with you.
wasn't always the case, to be fair. I needed to incrementally, because like I'd be frustrated and like, oh, get angry about stuff, and I'd have to, what's a little better than angry? Here we go, and just I had to work my way up more. But now, as time goes on, these are just things they're telling you. They're not to be written down as fact or law. They're just suggesting these are ideas.
Which is really a very important thing to say. And
Yes.
I can error. Yeah, I can mirror what you just said by saying that when I was first exposed to the 23, I guess it was actually 22, not that it matters, but the point is I was exposed to it when I first read the book Asking It Is Given. That's where they lay it out. And in that book, not only do they lay out the scale, but they also give you a bunch of what they call processes. And each process has an indication as to what vibrational range you should be in order to use the process. If you're not in that
Yes.
vibrational range, you shouldn't try to use it. Well, I didn't realize when they were saying that all they're really saying is don't try to take massive steps, do
Yeah.
small steps.
Right.
But they made it much more complex than that. So
Well,
I had to figure out, well, am I feeling irritated right now? Am I frustrated? Well, I kind
yeah.
of frustrated, irritated. Where am I on the scale? And I would freak out over that, trying to figure
So,
out, well, where am I on this thing so I can use the right exercises?
well, what you were doing was unintentionally getting more frustrated over the
I
frustration
was.
of the scale,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the various methods they're talking about. And if you listen, I think that's the time I do the audiobook. So in my mind, I'm hearing, just who's saying what, but the idea that they're discussing the concept of you can use any of these processes, they'll work. They literally say this, but
Mhm.
you don't use a process that's too far out of the line with where you're at.
Exactly.
That's what Jerry says, those words.
Yeah.
uh, but again, as you understand it better, you don't need to get stuck in the weeds on that. You can't do the law of attraction wrong. If you're understanding some basic concepts, you always want to move up
Mhm.
the scale. You know and that's one of the things that a lot of people say, well, I must be doing that wrong because I went from this to this. And I go, no, you're taking an example and making it literal when they're just giving you an overall. Those were just, here's some suggestions,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
when their meditative process. They have there's I'm trying to forget the other ones that they use. Their processes are all good. They're
The
they're
process is really
effective.
good. Yeah.
uh, but they're like, at the end of the day, you've got to figure out your process to move up the scale. And all of this is about you learning and eventually being able to turn it on. It operates so much more easily than you realize it can in the beginning. In fact, the problem is it's so ridiculously easy, you can't accept it's that easy.
Yeah, I
And
don't know about you. I used to reread the process 3 or 4 times figuring I missed it. I
yes,
must not
yes,
have understood what this thing was all about because
yes,
what I understood was too simplistic. It can't be that.
it was. Yeah, that was the thing. It's like it's just really is pretty simple. So
Mhm.
the what we're shooting for is the ability on any given moment in your life where in this build. So if you're early in this process, and let's say you're a 40-year-old person, you've been divorced, you've had a lot of stuff happen, you've been laid off, maybe dealt with some minor illnesses and frustrations over life and feels like life's redundant. So
Mhm.
you have about 40 years of programming in the subconscious brain
Right.
that we have to start working on.
Right.
So, so your default inner dialogue is negative based on all that. Well, this is not going to work out, or this is stupid. First
Hmm.
time I ever heard of all this stuff, I wanted it to work, but my initial reaction was, this is a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
And
Mine too.
but I had to stop it, saying, well, no, my life is bullshit. So clearly, their life isn't. Maybe I should just listen more,
Yeah.
And and once I understood that, and then as time goes on, it is nothing like you think it is. It's just this really simple way of being able to identify how you're feeling, being able to, just say, wait a minute, what am I feeling that way about? And also for me, the biggest thing that I do that historically has done for me, this is a physical activity. So I have a self-adjusting emotional guidance scale every day when I go to the gym.
Hmm.
It's like right off the bat, I start my day with a super heavy workout at the gym, and I never leave the gym feeling worse than I walked in, ever.
Yeah.
So I walk in, I using their scale, I never get below a 10 ever.
Mm.
I never get on their scale, just because the gym automatically corrects for me. I don't even have to think about my emotions in the morning. I just go to the gym. I feel great leaving the gym, period.
I know you wouldn't do this, but I'll bet you if a day came where for whatever reason you couldn't go to the gym, if you just thought about going to the gym, you'd probably still get that rise in feeling
Yeah.
just because you have such an association with it.
It is. I One of the reasons I belong to multiple gyms is one of the gyms I belong to has 24/7 access with, and I got a key.
Hmm.
So, it's like snowstorm, some of the other gyms closed, I got that. But even if I'm at home and I need to do some meditations or some sit-ups or some, planks or whatever, just go around the neighborhood, just go hiking or something. I can create the gym if I can't go to the gym.
Right. Right. And that's it.
Yeah.
It's creating it in your mind.
Yes.
Because that's really what's happened. That's why you have such a positive association with that gym. You have built it in your mind, one visit at a time, one workout at a time over the course of a 30-year period. And my God, if that doesn't, put in a new channel in your brain, nothing will.
Well, and that's the advantage of it. And not everybody enjoys the gym like I do.
Yeah.
But I used it early in my recovery as
Right.
recovery. So
Right.
I associate it with getting back on my feet, turning my life around. The gym was fundamental. I made a commitment that I'm going to work out it every day. And obviously, life has some days I can't make it to the gym, but most days I do.
Mm.
But I'm going to keep my workout lifestyle going. And in the beginning, the first couple of years, you still had to force yourself to go. You still thought about it. There is no forcing it. I automatically go to the gym. The other day during the snowstorm, I drove to the gym. I had no clue they'd be closed. I'm like, damn it. And then I just drove to the other gym and worked out then. It's just, it's like, well, I want to work out. It did, a lot of people say, because the other gym's about 30 minutes away. I'm like, no, I want to go work out at the other gym. And it wasn't negotiable to skip the day. I wanted to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a great demonstration of not only how gratitude works, because there's the gratitude piece behind that reprogramming that you did. Like you said, you were basically starting at a very early part of your personal rehabilitation to develop this habit of going to the gym.
Yes.
And what I want to point out is that was an expression of gratitude.
Yes.
You were very grateful for that gym because that gym had a positive association for you. Anything you have a positive association for is a gratitude.
Well, and when the type of depression and anxiety that I was dealing with, which was addiction induced, it was situationally induced, the exercising component released the brain chemicals that I needed to feel better.
Right.
So that was my medication. And so I associate the feeling of after the gym, and those that work out and really appreciate that. I know when you dance is very athletic what you do, and you spend a lot of energy.
Oh, I
So
love it.
after that activity, your brain is operating all these wonderful chemicals that have been released in the brain.
Oh God,
The brain
yes,
is more neuroplastic after a workout.
very much so.
You've heard me say many times, I don't make any major decisions in my life till after a workout. If
Hmm.
I have business deals I'll look at, they'll send them to me. And I said, I'll let you know after the gym. I have the gym to look at as my, that's important. The gym
Do-
is my everything. It provides me with that stuff. So, in my community is a gym. So most of my friends are derived from the gym. So it represents, when I first moved up from South Carolina many years ago, 2008, moved up from South Carolina to work up here, and I didn't know anybody. The very first night we moved here, I went and joined the gym, still belong to, and started working out. Within 2 weeks, people see you there regularly. Hey, can you give me a spot? They'll talk to you about it. Then I'm working out with some guys. Now I have a friend group. There's people now that was many years ago, and there's people now that just are convinced. I've lived here my entire life. They really believe that. It's just that I've become entwined in the community, and it started with me networking at the gym.
At the gym, yeah, I
Yeah.
get that totally. That makes sense. Now, do you have the same experience or a similar experience to what I have, where if I go to a dance, if I go dancing in some shape or form, by the end of the activity, either while I'm there and getting ready to leave or soon afterward, one or the other, I end up with some new or relatively different experience happening of a positive nature. Like I find it's a very consistent pattern. If I dance, it's almost a sure thing, certainly while I'm still there, that odds are probably like 70, 80% while I'm still there. As I'm getting ready to exit the facility, I'm going to have a great conversation with somebody. Some interesting thing is going to happen. Some new piece of information is going to come my way that I hadn't known about before. And if it doesn't happen right then, it's going to happen certainly within 24 hours, probably within 12 hours after I leave the place. Do you experience that?
That's sort of my life. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, how my days are. And I'm, I'm always fascinated about people that present my life, how they, show up, and it's like you said, conversations or just ideas that pop into my brain when I'm doing
Yep.
that. So by working out, I'm keeping all of that going. I love my brain. It's always busy. It's always thinking. It's always going. There are times I'm like, okay, brain, we can stop for a minute here.
Time to take a little break. Yeah.
Yeah, can we take a little break? And sometimes I can actually relax better after the gym because it
Yes.
releases some stuff too. So
Yes.
even though I have all that great stuff going on, I can also take 30 minutes and sit in a chair and close my eyes and do sort of a form of meditation and really slow my brain down, which is really helpful for me.
And what does not happen for me because of the positive associations that I do have with dance is I don't come away from a dance and then all of a sudden start getting myself into a frustrated or jittery state.
Right.
If I'm going to do that, it's going to take a while, like
Yes.
24 hours. 24 hours, maybe I could do it then. Maybe I start
Yeah.
getting into a negative state then. But I have such a positive association built into me with dance that just doesn't happen afterward.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's that but that's that. Imagine creating a life and where you're vibrating at a level and you have tools to help keep you vibrating at that level. It's really hard to have that negative stuff come along. It's just
Yeah.
that it really, it's just, I don't want to keep using the word drug because it has a negative connotation, but
Mm.
it is has an effect on the body, which the body responds in the body's grateful for the exercise. The body's
Yeah.
grateful for how you feel. Not just your brain, your body it really appreciates you doing that as well. That sounds weird, but all that does happen.
But it's true. It's
It
very
is
true.
true. And
Yeah.
so the mind body, the mind muscle connection is strengthened more after a workout. And that vibration of that, it affects everything. People, like, I had a guy one day ask me at the gym, he said, "Are you really this happy all the time?" And I said, I don't think of it that way, but I think I am. I'm not. he goes, but like you're always, me, I'm always joking, and I don't know if I'm ever not joking unless it's something really serious.
Mhm.
And then I will still follow a joke, almost
Most
guaranteed.
likely, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but it's just that there was a time I was the exact opposite of that. I was
Mm.
always negative. I was and so I have programmed to a point right now. And the other thing that goes along with that is when you understand, and this is really hard for people that are struggling. But this is a place you can get to. Everything is going to work out in my favor.
Yeah.
I have. It's
That's
not.
mind blowing.
It,
Yeah.
so once you know the deck's stacked in your favor, what's there? Yeah, and now it might be a little inconvenience today. It might not be going like I wanted to go today, but like I said, my this lady walks over to my house today after I cleaned out all the junk. Basically, makes me an offer. I accept the offer. Uh, I didn't have to put my house up for sale.
That's fabulous.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah. Well, we'll work it out. But that's just how things sort of fall into place for me.
Yeah.
You know.
No. I was having a interaction with a guy on social media recently. His thing was he couldn't get the hot girls. He couldn't find the hot girls, and he was trying to find the right one for him, and he wasn't getting anywhere. And I mean, literally everything that this guy was writing was negative. I mean, the degree of negativity this guy was in was so obvious to everyone except for him, which very often is the case. We aren't often aware of just how negative our own space is. It takes somebody else to point it out to us. But I was noticing it, others were noticing it. And I pointed out to him some of the things that we talk about here and so forth. And he came back with a really interesting line that's kind of stuck with me, because I realized just how much it expresses what it feels like to be in that state.
Yes.
Because the line he came back to me with was, using Jedi mind tricks isn't going to get me the girl. And well, first of all, that was an interesting get, choosing Jedi mind tricks, because it's kind of like a little bit of a parallel going on there. But the more interesting part was, for him, it was about a trick to get the girl.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the idea that he changing his mindset is going to make a difference. That was laughable to him.
Yeah.
That was a joke.
Yeah.
Well,
and it is to most people when they hear it. I've had people hear what I talk about. They say it's absurd that you think changing your mindset changes your life. And I go, yeah, it is. It's absolutely absurd. It's absurd because it's so damn easy.
Yes.
It's absurd because I fought all those years doing it the other way. It's just life is on cruise control when you get it, but there are some people that will never, and I'm not critical of people. People have their own journey. They have to get to where they get to, however they get to it.
They do,
but
yeah.
There are some people that are fundamentally so predisposed to the negativity, they almost don't want to give it up. It takes away. I asked one guy one day, I said, do you want to get better? And he goes, of course I want to get better. I go, then why? But why are you still not? You're still doing the exact same things you were doing when you before. You're not doing anything different. How do you expect that to change?
Yeah, the old. I mean, I know there are a lot of things about 12-step that aren't all that good, but there's one good thing out of 12-step: their definition of insanity. I mean, it's spot on.
Yeah.
Insanity being defined as doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Like, that just nails it.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating place to be in. It's a terrifying place to be in. I've been there. I know you've been there too. Being in that spot of just not believing that mindset's going to make any difference at all.
Right.
And laughing at the idea. Well, not so much laughing, but laughing sarcastically. Is it possible to laugh sarcastically? Well, if it is, that's what you're doing in that space. You're sarcastically dismissing, like, oh, that's just a bunch of BS. That's just nonsense.
Right.
Only a simpleton would believe that kind of stuff. Until that moment comes, and it always comes at some point. I call it a 2x4 moment. It's that moment where life, which has been sending you all kinds of signals and ideas and options and alternatives all along, and you just kept saying, no, because it can't be your mindset. It can't be that at all. Eventually, life sends you a 2x4 moment where you've been ignoring everything else, so it just sends the 2x4 to whack you up the side of the head to try to get your attention.
Yeah.
And 2x4 moments are usually pretty damn miserable. Horrible things happen in the middle of them. And at some point, many of us, not all of us, I won't say everybody, at some point, many of us have enough of those 2x4 moments where we say, okay, enough already. I'm willing to try anything at this point.
Yeah.
Just stop with this stuff, for God's sake.
Well, the idea that like there's this guy though, and he's a friend. He's not a client, and he's a good guy, but he's like, man, I wish I would have never got married. It's just so much hassle. And I said, well, then get divorced. No, 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 we don't do that. I said, okay, just stay stuck. Let's keep going. And just so every day it's this, and he hates his job. And then quit your job. And let's get another. No, no, too much. I said, so just keep saying stuff. That was my joke. He always laughs. Yeah, I'll just stay stuck, be miserable. So on a Monday, at the end of the workday, he got let go one Monday. Freaked him out. Called me, can you believe I lost my job? And I go, well, to be fair, yeah, you've been bitching about it for years. Yes, you manifested losing your job. And I said, well, you'll get another job. Don't worry about it. He goes, I don't know. And I said, see, you're doing it again. That Friday after that happened, his wife had him served with papers for divorce.
Oh, my. Okay.
Do you believe she's divorcing me? And I go, well, once again, yeah, I do. It's like, but he had a double 2x4 moment. And then finally he came over one day to my house and said, okay, tell me what this is all about. Because you can't. And he said the same thing. He said, it can't be this simple. I said, it is this simple. It's just, you really got to do it. He's doing fine. He believe it or not, him and his wife got back together.
Wow.
They never got divorced. She was tired of his whiny attitude. And, she's a go-getter and sort of more, so they do law of attraction stuff together. They acted, went to see Abraham Hicks live, before, a while back. And so very, very positive life now. And he ended up with a better job than he had before. So things are good. Yeah. But it took a couple of 2x4s upside the head to make him really make that change.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's why I have actually gotten to the point now where I accept it. You accepted it before I did. And I remember when you first expressed it, I was very dubious and doubtful. But you talked about how the best thing that ever happened was the day you got thrown in jail. And I remember that. I said, that's stupid. Who would possibly say something like that?
Stupid.
Yeah. But I get it now.
Yeah.
Not that you ever want to go through it again, but my goodness, that was the 2x4 moment. That was the one where you finally said, okay, I'm waking up. I'm willing to shift. I'm willing to say it's me for a change.
Yeah. That was a moment where, I was in the middle of a horrible gambling addiction. I knew that was coming at some point just by the stuff I'd done. And I dreaded that more than anything. And one of the weirdest feelings I've ever experienced is I was arrested on I believe a Wednesday midday. I was taken to jail. I was booked, and then they put me in my cell. And when the door shut at my cell, it was the weirdest, not the feeling you would expect. I was like, whew, that's finally over. So my worst case scenario had come true, and I'd survived it. Yeah. In fact, it was not near as bad as I thought it was. And while jail was no means fun, it was very boring. The food I can't describe how ungodly the food is.
You said that, yes.
Yeah, but other than that, jail, I was there for a little less than 30 days. And, jail was a turning point for me. I survived it. I came out, let's go. I mean, worst case scenario happened, and I'm still breathing. I'm still going. And that started the momentum. If you can survive that, I'm ready.
And everything has improved since then. It didn't happen fast.
No, in the beginning, it was exceptionally slow. But as time goes, when you look in the rearview mirror, it doesn't seem as slow as it was seeming at the time. Right. But, it took me, getting back on my feet. Then it took me a long time. Yeah, I still had to learn. As once things got stable, I was in a period of time where I always had enough, but I never had more than enough. It was just, I was treading water. And I
Yes.
had to say, what am I doing wrong now? You know,
Right.
I was always impressed that I covered my everything. I had restitution to pay. I was able to cover it, but it was like barely. It was
Just
like
barely. Yeah.
barely every month. And then I realized I am focused on just enough. I'm not focused on an abundance. I'm not focused on more than that. And you know, it
Well,
took,
it's more than that, isn't it? Because I remember being very confused about that for my own life. Why it was that, living, paycheck to paycheck, that kind of a thing, living month to month, week to week, even. Why was it that I could know intellectually what was causing that and still feel like I couldn't beat it?
yeah,
Because there was a disconnect going on there. And yet there was also a connection at the same time,
yes,
which is very confusing.
it is.
It's very confusing. And it wasn't until I finally grasped that it wasn't just about thinking it that made the difference, that you also had to be feeling that new place you're going to be into. And that's where, first of all, it was awakening to recognize that. And second of all, it was terrifying because now I had to start feeling something I wasn't feeling.
Right.
How the hell do you do that?
Yes. And that's the hardest part is,
It
you know,
is.
how do I feel an abundance when I'm clearly living in a lack of abundance? And,
Yeah.
and then that's why when last week we were talking a little bit about the speed of the law of attraction, my belief system dictates how long the law of attraction works and what I believe it would take to do.
Right.
So as I made a little bit more money and had a little more leeway, I started to believe a little more. And I remember the first month I had every bill paid and I had an extra $500. I was like, oh my gosh, this is working, you know?
Yeah.
And, and then I remember saving up when I got to a point, I saved up $5,000. It's like, oh my gosh, that's I mean, I've never saved up $5,000. And then, so I had evidence. Now my mind was able to go further and further. And then once I realized there's no limits to anything. It's just any limits I was putting on myself. And then now it's just not, as I said, it's just not even a thing anymore. But at that time and I put way too much focus on it. That was the problem. Even when I was doing it, you think about it too much. Money isn't in the top 100 things I think about it. It's not. It doesn't occupy any space anymore.
Which is really great.
And I have more money than I ever could imagine having.
Yeah. But that shows how much work you did on yourself that you were able to get to that point. That's really what that is. That's the payoff on that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Which is a fabulous thing. It's also when you're going through something like that, it's a bit of a challenge to not only find that way to feel what you're not feeling, but to stay focused on, I need to do this.
Yes.
Because it's not like all the temptations went away. And by the temptations, I mean the different kinds of negative experiences, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, they didn't go away. They were still there. So I still had to deal with them. I still had to find some way to leave them behind, to release them, to do what. And you remember half the time I couldn't even define what it meant to release something. I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah.
I couldn't even fathom what am I letting go of? It's like I'm told I'm hanging onto a steering wheel and I can't even see the steering wheel.
Yeah. It's very nuanced, and you have to you gotta want it and then step away from it. You got to want it. You can't sit there, because if you stare at it too long or want it too hard, you're actually giving the energy of lack of that.
Yes, that's right.
And so you don't want to come across as lacking. We're feeling that, but you definitely want to be able. It's just once you figure it out, it becomes on cruise control. It's a really hard thing. It seems like it's a really hard thing to do, but it's all incremental. And you just keep at it, and then one day you wake up and go, "Okay, I understand this now."
Well, I think what I learned is that it's not that I understood it; it's that I understand it better than I did.
Yeah.
Like for instance, it took 2008 was when I had the crash. By 2012, that's when I started the podcast. It's also when I had the highest level of debt. And then from that point on, I'm trying to figure out how to pay off debt. And talk about incremental. It was like little tiny incremental. It was just, it seemed like it was going to go on forever. And then along comes the pandemic. And miraculously during the pandemic, I was able to pay about half of the whole thing off. Yeah. I'd already paid most of it off by then. It's like the last half all got paid off during the pandemic, which is so counterintuitive. I mean, income is down. My income was way, way down. And all of a sudden I pay. How the hell did I do that? But the point, and there's a whole story behind that. But the point is that once it was paid off and I looked at the zeros, well, there was a lot of relief and release associated with that. But it wasn't like it was this great big aha moment.
Right.
It's not like I said, oh, now I get it. It was more like, oh, I guess I kind of get it. It was more like that kind of a feeling. Like, I'm
I didn't have
partway there, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever had the day where like, oh my God, that hit me like, but it you just realize it's like paying off. I had $250,000 in credit card debt and various debts when I got out of jail,
Mm.
and an overwhelming number. And I had no job or no income, so that
Right.
was even more challenging. But once I started paying it off, and talk about incremental, what I did in that situation, I negotiated the credit card debt from, I have no way I was going to pay off that $250,000 in credit card debt. So most of the companies negotiated really well with me, and I was able to get my stuff down to about 10 cents on the dollar.
Mm.
I still had to make payments on that, but I did, and then it started. The more I paid on it, the more momentum I felt about it, and then it's like it got paid off amazingly that well. And my credit score now is, I'm on something like 96 months in a row of having an 850 credit score kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I worked really hard to build that back up, but it was. The incremental, the more I paid, the more I believed. The more I paid, the more I believed, and then it just sort of disappeared easily. And then once that one got paid up, I doubled up on the other one, and then shockingly, I got paid off pretty quick.
That's what we call a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes,
but of the good kind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you can have them either way.
Well,
right?
yeah. Anything is good or bad. It's all perspective based. Like law of attraction is at play no matter what. Law of attraction has no opinion. It doesn't care. There's no negative or positive law of attraction. It literally spits at you what you're spitting out. That's what it does.
Right. Yeah.
It just feeds you what your energy is. I have one of my Facebook friends. I don't interact with her because I don't think she's ready to hear this, but I'll see her post, and she seems like a really nice lady, but everything is so negative, and she says this, and today her post was, "I'm just so disappointed in everybody," and I almost said, "You only need to be disappointed in yourself right now." I didn't, because she couldn't have handled that. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
But that would be a statement I would make in person, but immediately be able to repair it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I couldn't have said that. But until she adjusts that, she's going to keep being disappointed. It's the idea that she needs to take her action, do her stuff, but she's going to continue to be disappointed because she's so negative. And I can imagine, I don't even know her situation.
Yeah,
but it doesn't matter.
You almost don't even have to.
No, yes, exactly. That's the point. It doesn't matter the situation. She is responsible for her situation, and her mindset is perpetuating that situation. And I don't even know the situation. It's that simple.
Which points to a really important point that I want to draw out as one of the last things we talk about here. And that is kind of what I alluded to earlier. When we're in that spot, in that place where we're so resistant and nothing is getting better, everything's getting worse, we're attracting that 2x4 moment, all those horrible things are going on. When we're in that particular place, it's as if our brains shut off to what we're doing. It's as if we have blinders on, so we can't see what we're doing on a regular basis. I mean, literally, I thought when I was at my worst negative level, where I was consistently negative day after day after day, I thought I was a positive person.
Yeah.
I really did. I mean, if somebody had come along, when somebody did, actually, my ex-wife did at that time, came along and said, you're not. You're behaving negatively all the time. I just didn't believe her.
Yeah.
I thought it was not true. It couldn't possibly be true until I finally took a moment to start, kind of tallying it up, making lists and so forth. And I realized, oh my God, I had no idea I was focusing on so much negativity.
There's a movie. It's a Robin Williams movie from the 90s. It's called What Dreams May Come.
Oh, yes, exactly.
So to my fundamentalist Baptist friends, don't watch it.
Don't watch. No.
God, no. You're
Yeah,
going to burn in hell
you're
if you
just going to
watch
go
it.
crazy over that
A
one.
lot of hell burning if you watch it. Anyway,
Yeah.
but the rest of you guys should watch it because there's a point at the movie, and I won't give the movie away, but his wife is in hell,
Right.
literal hell, and hell wasn't what we thought it was. Hell was she couldn't see anything. She couldn't see it. And
everything was dark. Everything
was dark,
apart.
and so she couldn't see it. It didn't really exist, but she didn't realize that it didn't exist.
Right.
And I won't spoil it, but they have a really cool way that she got out of hell.
It did. Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah, but it's a great movie. Robin Williams. It's believe it or not, it's sort of what I believe in, sort of spiritual sense too, the overall concepts. But really good movie as you get to that. To me, I use that as an analogy that there's a moment when she realizes, wait a minute, this isn't and it's this the belief. When you believe there's no path forward, when you believe these things, you don't even know you're stuck. You don't know you're stuck in hell. You don't know I'm a positive person. Then somebody comes along and says, oh my goodness, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
By the way, it's also worth noting, it was gratitude that got her out.
That gratitude got her out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was, I've watched that movie a few times, and it's really, it didn't get a lot of acclaim back in the day.
No.
It's just one of those movies that
it's what we used to call an art house movie. You don't be able to see that at the art houses.
Yeah. But Robin Williams is really good in that movie. I forget who his co-star is in that, but she's really good.
Yep.
Recommend it. It's called What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams.
Yeah, fabulous film. Yeah, I'm glad you remind me of that one because that's definitely a favorite from the past. So, well, okay. I think we've talked about gratitude a lot in the past. I think we did a good service on it today. I think
we did, and we'll do really good the next time as well.
Because that's what we do.
That's what we do. We love gratitude.
That's what we do. So, all right. Well, good enough. I'll be talking to you next week. Thank you so much. Appreciate your wonderful contributions and thoughts and everything. And I mean, I value as much as ever. And I'm glad
you too, my friend. I'm grateful for all you do. I'm grateful for our connection as always. And I'm grateful for our audience. The fact that even if one person's listening tonight that found something helpful here, I'm grateful for that.
And funny thing is, I'm pretty sure we can count on a lot more than just one.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day we couldn't, but today we can.
Back in the day, we were shocked if it was one.
Yeah.
In fact, I even told that story today, Joel. I told it to my guest who was on the show earlier with me and Anne Marie about how there was like 2 or 3 years in, I got my first email from a listener. Do you remember that? Because I remember I told you about it, and I was stunned, like I can't believe it. And I remember I vividly remember what my reaction was like. Oh my God, what have we been saying on the podcast? I was afraid we had said something offensive or something, and people were going to be picking up on this stuff because I hadn't thought about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you had me on the show with you because almost guaranteed something offensive.
See, right? Which makes it all the more fun. So thank you very much. Thank you, podcast listeners. We really do appreciate you so much. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.